Oh, just let that video roll. Well, I'll relax a little bit.
Well, the sky, too, against it. It's not
beautiful?
just the water. Just absolutely beautiful shot there. Again, that's from Wales. Well, that's going to do it for us here. Stay tuned. News 3 at 5 starts right now. Right now at 5, a new federal report has been released following an investigation into a Sauk County nursing home that knowingly housed a sex offender.
A UW-Madison fraternity has been suspended following a disturbing video. We'll have the latest.
And how area businesses are trying to protect the environment just by enhancing or getting rid of one small product.
Is News 3 at 5.
Thanks for staying with News 3. Allegations of abuse and a cover-up are part of a 110-page federal report into a local nursing home.
The investigation began after multiple residents were allegedly sexually assaulted at Maplewood Nursing Home in Sauk Prairie. Our Keely Arthur is in the newsroom with the details. Keely?
That's right. A state and federal investigation began into Maplewood after a man living in the home was arrested for sexually assaulting multiple female residents. In May, police arrived at Maplewood when a resident told staff 69-year-old Galen Malish groped her. Malish is a registered sex offender. A Department of Health Services and Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services investigation found the home to have violated 9 federal rules. It shows that staff knew Malish was on the sex offender registry and that officials at Maplewood tried to cover up an investigation into his behavior. Now, Maplewood told us today that they have submitted a plan to correct their violations. Federal officials will now do a surprise inspection to determine if Maplewood is back in good standing.
We will continue to follow it. Keely Arthur in the newsroom. Thanks, Keely.
The University of Wisconsin-Madison chapter of the Kappa Sigma fraternity was suspended today for a safety-related incident happened over the weekend. Now, officials say this incident happened on Langdon Street Saturday. Instagram videos showed the incident, which involved this TV being thrown from the roof of the fraternity house. It almost landed on a woman below. An interim suspension. You can see how close that was. This suspension prevents a student organization from holding any events, reserving space, or enjoying the other privileges associated with student organization status. Madison police spokesman Joel Despain said the department issued misdemeanor citations to 2 20-year-old fraternity members. UW officials said the investigation into this incident should last the rest of the summer. They plan to release a statement on those findings after that.
Let's head over to the Weather Center now. Dave Caulfield is watching the weather. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Susan. More comfortable weather is on the way for southern Wisconsin. We can thank a cold front and a high pressure system moving in from Canada, bringing that drier air into town. Any showers are well south of the Wisconsin-Illinois state line. I think they'll stay that way. Some thunderstorms as well moving south of Rockford, downtown Madison. On the Edgewater Skycam, looking at partly sunny skies. It's a nice looking lake out there, but still pretty warm. Those temperatures are at double 8s right now. Now a north-northwest wind at 8 miles per hour. Lots of 8s on that map. Dew point at 71 degrees, so maybe a little bit less humid, but more comfortable air is going to be here in a couple of hours. Temperatures are in the mid to upper 80s across the area. Dew point still in the 70s for many of us, but check out closer to Black River Falls and Watoma. Dew points in the 50s, so it is on the way, that more comfortable air. Heat index values still feeling like the 90s in many spots, a little bit better closer to the north. Check out these dew point changes over the last 24 hours. About 10 to 15 degrees less humid in spots like Black River Falls, Camp Douglas, and Watoma. So wind speeds right now out of the north and west behind that front at about 8 to 15 miles per hour. This evening, decreasing clouds, becoming less humid. It's going to feel much better by later tonight. Temperatures falling through the 80s into the low 70s by later this evening. We'll talk about that comfortable air, how long it lasts, and when that humidity tries to make a comeback in your first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Dave, thank you. One man is dead, another injured after a head-on crash involving a dump truck. This happened in Rock County, where sheriff's deputies say it happened around 9:30 this morning near the intersection of Highway 140 and Highway 14. That's just east of Janesville. Deputies say a pickup truck driven by an 87-year-old man from Arlington, Texas, crossed the center line and hit a dump truck that was driven by a 54-year-old Fitchburg man. The pickup truck driver pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the dump truck was taken to an area hospital with non-life-threatening life-threatening injuries.
A former state trooper from Cambridge was sentenced today on 5 counts of possession of child pornography in Jefferson County. Court documents show Frank Torres was sentenced to 3 years in prison and 5 years of extended supervision. According to a criminal complaint, Torres was taken into custody after videos depicting children performing sex acts were found on electronic devices in his home. Torres had been a state trooper since 1994, but resigned amid the allegations.
Madison Police Chief Mike Koval says last month was projected to be the worst month ever in the city of Madison for heroin deaths. In his blog, Chief Koval says there were 35 known overdoses in June. Back in June of 2017, a year ago, there were just 9. Chief Koval says there were 11 suspected deaths from heroin overdoses, which is a 450% increase from last year. We'll have more on this story tonight on News 3 at 6.
A Viroqua man is injured after swerving on his motorcycle to avoid being in a crash with a vehicle that crossed the center line. Investigators say 58-year-old Ronald Rood was driving a motorcycle west on Highway 14 when a dark-colored car crossed the center line, forcing him to swerve to avoid a crash. Rood then lost control and was thrown from his motorcycle. Police say the other vehicle continued east on 14 and did not stop. Rood was taken to the Richland Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The crash remains under investigation.
A car launched over a stone wall and got stuck in a house 10 feet off the ground. This was in Newburgh, Wisconsin. Ozaukee County records show Alva Richards from Wabeeka was arrested for this crash, released on bail. The family who lives in that home showered with glass and debris during the crash.
First, I just didn't, you don't put anything together that happens that fast. And then when I went back in, I looked and I could see, the bottom of the car sitting there in the building.
The family says Richards came to them the next day with his wife and 3 children apologizing. Richards charged with second-degree recklessly endangering safety and possession of marijuana.
Earlier this week, Seattle became the first major city to ban plastic straws, and other cities are beginning to follow their lead. Even right here in Madison, more and more restaurants are beginning to not offer plastic straws to their customers.
As part of the sustainability movement to cut down on our plastic consumption, our Jamie Perez spoke with a restaurant who is actually coming up on its first year without offering straws up front to its customers. Jamie?
That's right, and that restaurant may just be the first of many to follow their lead. Today I spoke with Vintage Brewing Company right here in Madison, and they've cut straws from their normal offered service for about a year, and they say it's been extremely beneficial in cutting down waste in an industry that tends to have a lot of it. Here at Vintage Brewing Company, the staff is getting ready for the lunch rush hour. From their plates to their napkins, everything looks in order. But one thing that's different are their straws.
It's a normal sturdy, heavy straw, that's for sure.
Sure, looks like your average straw, certainly gets the job done, but these aren't just plastic straws.
We do offer 100% compostable straws if the guests are looking for them. Always available upon request.
They've been offering these for about a year. It's part of the movement to rid of plastic straws or severely cut down the use.
The dollar was worth it for us to let the community know that we're just trying to do our part and litter as least as possible.
And they're not the only ones behind the movement. Places like Four Quarter, El Dorado Grill, Mr. Brew's Tap House, and Green Owl Cafe are all joining this movement to get plastic straw litter down to a minimum. In fact, there are so many plastic straws that become waste or thrown into landfills or even thrown here on the streets. Just walking on this street here in Madison, I've found not 1, but 2 straws just along this 10-foot stretch here of Winnebago. So in their effort to
do something good for the environment,
they've even taken things a bit further. It's not just a no straw unless requested policy, but also no water.
we don't automatically serve water. Sometimes on the patio in the summer we do, but generally in-house we wait for a request for it, just because there is a lot of waste in pouring the water and actually washing the glasses that contain the water.
Just a step further, and you might even start to notice more restaurants around the area getting behind the movement.
I think people in Wisconsin can really get behind that. We've got such great beauty around us, it's just silly to throw plastic straws everywhere.
I also spoke with Pelletary Waste Systems, and they say they are behind this movement because so many people think that plastic straws are recyclable, and they are not. So the less plastic straw usage there is, the less mess that they have to deal with when they're sorting it all out in their facility.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Some great ideas in there. Jamie, thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Local beekeepers and maple syrup producers are worried about what might happen if the FDA adds the words added sugars to their nutrition labels. Honey and maple syrup producers argue that a label with the words added sugars is confusing and misleading. The Wisconsin Honey Producers Association says the changes could lead to consumers believing that the producers are adding corn syrup or other sugars to their products when in fact they're not. They say it's just naturally occurring sugars that are already in the product. The FDA ranks Wisconsin 4th in maple syrup production and 12th in honey production. The Red Cross is saying that it will institute a blood emergency starting Monday. That means that more blood is being used than is being donated, which can have serious consequences, including doctors being forced to delay surgeries. The Red Cross is asking people to donate blood, which can make an enormous impact.
Their grandpa and my dad received quite a few blood donations when he was in the hospital. He had leukemia, so the little thing that I can do to give back to, help say thank you to those people who donated blood for him.
Officials say they are about 15,000 donations behind.
Epic has purchased the carousel and the decorations from Madison's historic Ella's Deli, which is the former ice cream parlor and restaurant with the outdoor children's carousel that closed back in January. Owner Ken Balkin said he and his wife Judy wanted to close down. They were ready to retire. The spokeswoman from Epic says they wanted to help preserve the iconic Madison landmark. Officials with Epic said a team started assessing the best way to transport that carousel and those decorations to the Epic campus last month. They believe it'll take until later this month to move all of those items. Some pets become scared during fireworks shows and run away from their homes, but a local Humane Society is seeing an increase in a different kind of animal. Marissa DeGroot from the Dane County Humane Society says the shelter did not see a significant intake of strays coming in after the fireworks last night. Instead, they are seeing a significant number of wildlife animals coming to the shelter.
Wild animals do get a little stressed out with all the noise and the fireworks, and that stress can sometimes cause them to maybe abandon young or get injured.
Well, if you do find a wild animal that may be injured or ill, you can go to giveshelter.org to set up an appointment to bring them in. More to come tonight on News 3 at 5. Up next, the Environmental Protection Chief submits his resignation while he says he is choosing to resign.
And the woman who climbed the Statue of Liberty is speaking out what she's saying about immigration in the United States.
President Donald Trump says he has accepted the resignation of Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt.
The president thanked Pruitt for doing what he called an outstanding job, even though the EPA chief has been engulfed in alleged scandal for months. Pruitt said in his resignation letter, "The unrelenting attacks on me personally, my family, are unprecedented and have taken a sizable toll on all of us." Pruitt has faced an array of ethical questions about his travel spending, security costs, and dealing with industry lobbyists and misuse of government resources. The president tweeted that Deputy Administrator Andrew Wheeler will assume the acting administrator position on Monday. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is on his way to North Korea for a follow-up visit on denuclearization. Pompeo departed Joint Base Andrews this morning. Last year, North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile that Kim Jong-un boasted could reach the United States. But President Trump now insists that's changed after the summit that he tweeted North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat. National security expert John Hanna says Pompeo must demand concrete evidence that North Korea is keeping up with the deal.
North Korea should be aware that if they continue to deceive and cheat and lie and not begin to come clean on their nuclear program, that there will continue to be a price that they have to pay for that.
This is Pompeo's third visit to North Korea and the first since last month's meeting in Singapore between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
A woman who climbed up the base of the Statue of Liberty yesterday to protest President Trump's immigration policies appeared in federal court today. 44-year-old Therese Patricia Okomu of Staten Island pleaded not guilty to 3 misdemeanors, including trespassing and disorderly conduct, after she climbed the base of the landmark to protest the separation of immigrant families who crossed the U.S. border illegally.
Michelle Obama, our beloved First Lady that I care so much about, said when they go low, we go high, and I went as high as I could.
Okomu is an immigrant from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. She was released on her own recognizance. If convicted, she faces up to 6 months behind bars on each count.
Rescuers at a flooded cave in Thailand are still working to save 12 boys and their soccer coach. Crews are racing to pump out the excess water from the cave and drilling through rocks to make room for hoses, which have already helped remove more than 31 million gallons of water. Rescue workers hope they can drain enough water to eliminate long stretches where the boys would have to keep their heads underwater.
Terrifying, but the children who are aware of the cave, they know the caves, they've been in the cave very often, so it's quite challenging. Obviously, there's zero visibility, it's a confined space, so it's a challenge.
The boys, ages 11 to 16, and their 25-year-old coach disappeared after they went exploring in the cave after a football game June 23rd.
Residents of a lakeside Michigan town were treated to a spectacular view of a shelf cloud. This is over Lake Superior on Saturday. This video shows a billowing wall of cloud looming low over the surface of the lake as the wind can be heard whipping along the shoreline. Shelf clouds are formed when cold drafts hit the ground, pushing warm air upwards. The moisture in this air condenses when it hits the cloud layer above, and this condensation then forms a shelf cloud, recognizable due to its characteristic column shape. And this is when we turn to Dave Caulfield and ask him if anything that we just said was actually correct.
It was, yes. You did a great job, Eric and Susan. Yeah, that is such a cool video because usually with shelf clouds, we get them because that cold air heading down from the rain, warm air is forced up, but usually we see a little bit of the ground in there. Well, it was so humid over Lake Superior that the atmosphere didn't really know where and when to start that cloud, so everything kind of became that shelf cloud, and also some fog on Lake Superior didn't really help make it less like a scene out of a horror movie. So that's basically what was going on there. No shelf clouds over us this afternoon and evening for southern Wisconsin. A few thunderstorms did form south of the Wisconsin-Illinois state line, but we do still have a few clouds after that front went through across the area this evening. But again, nothing too major, just a few puffy cumulus clouds. That front well south, closer to the Windy City right now. no thunderstorms to worry about as we head into the next few hours, or really the next few days, mind you. Doppler track is pretty quiet because really nothing to force that air up. It still is a little bit warm and humid outside for many of us. 88 the temperature right now in Madison, 86 in Monroe, 88 in Boscobel, and 85 in Watertown. Dew points, this is where you could see the effect of that cold front. Closer to Black River Falls and Watoma, we are looking at dew point temperatures, I should say, in the 50s, but still in the 70s for Madison, Janesville, and spots closer to Platteville. We are getting better in the humidity department, but we still need a few hours. It still feels like 94 in Madison, and Janesville feels like 92 in Mineral Point. But look at this. This is the important map. It's our 24-hour dew point change. It shows that change in humidity, much more comfortable air closer to Black River Falls and Camp Douglas. That heads south over the next few hours, and we'll all notice the effects. Big smiles on our faces tonight and into the next few days. Our high temperature trend for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, near normal temperatures, low humidity, very comfortable conditions out there. And that humidity does try and come back on Monday. But for this weekend, it is a pleasantly summer-like weekend across southern Wisconsin. Lots of sunshine, pleasant temperatures, and low humidity if you got to get that mow of your lawn in. Our time lapse in Madison, pretty hazy and humid today, so actually looked like a little bit of rain did try and fall, but didn't quite reach the ground. Still pretty humid outside, and we did see those clouds. Still a couple of clouds around on the WISC-TV Skycam in Madison. Tonight, becoming mostly clear, cooler, less humid. We can all take that sigh of relief and say, ah, outside. We're not in a dentist chair, but you may want to do that anyway. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, warm, less humid, temperatures in the low 80s. Future track showing things pretty quiet tonight with temperatures falling into the 60s and then into the upper 50s by the time we start Friday morning. But we can thank a high pressure system coming in from Canada. It has dry, cooler air in it. Know your source, folks. I always learned that in English class. And the source of this air is very dry and cool and comfortable. So we'll enjoy that for the next couple of days. Temperature is into the low 80s on Friday and on Saturday. Then as we head into the start of next week, though, that's when things start to change a little bit. We do get that humidity back. That summer-like heat does return for the start of the work week on Monday. Temperatures near 90. Heat index values into the mid to upper 90s by the time we get to later into next week, and our chances for showers and thunderstorms return by next weekend. So here's your first alert traffic update. We're taking a live look at Park Street on the Beltline. Not looking too bad in the eastbound direction, but westbound, a couple of brake lights are showing up, and also into the Park Street area closer to downtown, but not too bad on the Beltline at this time. Still going to notice that normal delay at about this time. Verona Road to John Nolan, 5 minutes, looking good with an average speed of around 55 miles per hour. Let's look at some other spots. John Nolan to Verona Road westbound, though, that is a little bit slow at 7 minutes with an average speed of around 40 miles per hour. So pretty quiet weather coming up over the next couple of days. Quiet and comfortable. Very important distinction between quiet and humid and quiet and comfortable. So we'll enjoy the next couple of days while we can get a break from this humidity. A humidity hiatus, if you will.
Nice.
That's going to feel very nice.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. A popular condiment you probably used yesterday while celebrating the 4th. Well, it's now subject to a 10% tariff from Canada. We'll tell you why when we return. Welcome back. An already messy trade situation between the U.S. and Canada is getting a little more complicated.
Canadian counter tariffs are now affecting dozens of U.S. imports. As Catherine Cullen reports, navigating the trade landscape isn't easy.
Even the humble hot dog isn't immune. You might think ketchup and mustard belong together, but a trade fight has put them on unequal footing. Heinz ketchup, made in the U.S., is now subject to a 10% tariff from Canada, while mustard remains tariff-free.
That might make me have to think twice. I might have to ditch Heinz sometime along the way. Slowly.
And the trade fight shows no signs of clearing up.
We've been very nice to Canada for many years, and they've taken advantage of that.
Yesterday, Donald Trump seemed to be talking about taking it slow.
You can't do NAFTA before the midterms.
I want to wait till after the election.
Today, he was back to talking about separate deals, meaning no NAFTA, after his phone call with Mexico's newly elected president.
We talked about trade, we talked about NAFTA, we talked about a separate deal, just Mexico and the United States.
As for the man who was just elected Mexican president,
Viva Mexico!
Left-leaning Andrés Manuel López Obrador could shake up negotiations too.
He's a self-described nationalist, so I think he will also not hesitate to push back on the United States when U.S. demands do not align with his interests.
And look who else is on the scene. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper spotted leaving the White House today after his private meetings with senior Trump officials. No word on what was discussed.
For all the talk about the future of trade, right now there are no active NAFTA negotiations, meaning this tariff tension could last a while. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
And we'll have another check of your forecast when we return. Stay with us.
Some relief is on the way.
Finally, it can't get here fast enough. Come on, Mother Nature, bring it into town, because it still does feel like the 90s in some spots, especially across far southern Wisconsin. But as we head into tomorrow, temperatures starting off in the 50s will make it into the low 80s for highs with plenty of sunshine and lower humidity. That low humidity stays with us for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Does try to make a comeback on Monday with temperatures near 90. It'll feel like the mid-90s once again by next week.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be back in 30 minutes for News 3 at 6. The CBS Evening News is next.